I thought my family was just overprotective. Then I found the file they'd been keeping on me. I used to think I was lucky. That's the embarrassing part. I grew up hearing people say things like, "Wow, your family really cares about you," or "You're so close with them, that's rare." And I believed it. I wore it like a badge of honor. My parents were attentive, involved, present. My older sister checked in constantly. My extended family always knew what was going on in my life. At the time, I thought that was love. Looking back, I realize it was observation. I'm the youngest in my family. There's a 7-year gap between me and my parents had me later in life. I was always treated like the fragile one, the one who needed guidance, protection, oversight. They helped me choose my classes, helped me pick my college, helped me decide where to live after graduation. Whenever I pushed back, they'd say the same thing. "We just want what's best for you." It sounded reasonable. After college, I moved back home temporarily. That temporary stretch lasted longer than I expected. Rent was expensive. My job was unstable. My parents insisted it made sense. They asked questions, lots of questions. What time I'd be home, who I was seeing, how much money I was making, why I seemed stressed. Again, I thought this was normal. The first crack appeared when I started dating someone seriously. Her name was Laura. Independent, confident, direct in a way my family wasn't used to. She noticed things almost immediately. "Why does your mom text you every morning asking where you are? Why does your sister know our plans before I do? Why do they get upset when you don't answer right away?" I defended them. "They're just worried," I said. "They've always been like this. That's just how my family shows love." Laura didn't push, she just observed. Then she asked something that stuck with me. "Do they ever not know what you're doing?" I didn't have an answer. Around that time, my family started acting tense. If I stayed out late, they'd ask for details. If I didn't come home, they'd want a full explanation. If I mentioned moving out again, they'd deflect or joke or subtly discourage it. My sister started showing up unannounced. "Just checking on you," she'd say. My mom would already know what we talked about before I mentioned it. That's when I realized something unsettling. They weren't just talking to me. They were talking about me. The moment everything changed happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was home alone, looking for an old tax document in my parents' office. I opened a filing cabinet I'd never had a reason to touch before. Inside were folders, labeled with my name. I stared at the folder for a long time before opening it. It felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain, like reading something I wasn't supposed to know existed. My name was written neatly on the tab in my mother's handwriting, the same careful script she used on birthday cards. Inside were documents. Not official ones, at least not all of them. There were printouts of emails I didn't remember sending, screenshots of social media posts, some recent, some from years ago, notes written in pen, clipped to pages, dated and organized. Missed family dinner, said work ran late. Seems distant lately. New girlfriend, may be influencing decisions. My stomach dropped. These weren't casual observations, they were assessments. I flipped through more pages. There were records of doctor appointments from when I was a teenager, school reports, counseling notes I didn't remember consenting to being shared, even financial summaries from my early 20s, bank balances, spending habits, income estimates. They had been tracking me. Not just recently. For years. At the back of the folder was a section labeled Concerns. That's where my hands started shaking. Under it were bullet points. Prone to impulsive decisions. Easily influenced by outsiders. Shows signs of emotional instability when asserting independence. I wanted to scream. This wasn't love. This was a case file. I heard the front door open. I shoved the folder back where I found it, my heart pounding, and left the room just as my mother walked into the kitchen. She smiled at me like nothing had happened. "Find what you were looking for?" she asked. I lied. "Yeah." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every conversation I'd ever had with them replayed in my head with a new context. The questions, the concern, the pressure, it all felt strategic now. I told Laura the next day. She went quiet as I explained, then said something that made everything click. "They don't see you as an adult," she said. "They see you as a liability they need to manage." That word manage echoed in my head. I started testing boundaries. Small ones at first. I didn't respond immediately to texts. I didn't explain where I was going. I stayed over at Laura's without notice. The reaction was swift. My mother called repeatedly. My sister showed up at my work. My father sat me down for a serious conversation. They said I'd changed, that I was being secretive, that they were worried about my mental health. That's when the threat emerged. "We might need to involve professionals," my father said carefully, "just to make sure you're okay." I realized then how dangerous the situation was. They didn't just want control. They had leverage, and they were prepared to use it. The confrontation happened sooner than I expected. I came home one evening to find my parents and my sister sitting in the living room, waiting for me. No TV, no small talk, just silence and folded hands. My dad gestured for me to sit. "We need to talk," he said. My mother looked like she'd been crying. My sister wouldn't meet my eyes. They didn't start with accusations. They started with concern. "You've been distant," my mom said softly. "You're making choices that don't seem like you," my sister added. "We're worried you're being influenced," my dad finished. They talked about Laura, how she was pulling me away, how I'd changed since meeting her, how independence didn't always mean health. Then my dad opened a folder. The folder. He slid it across the table. "We've been keeping records," he said calmly, "to help us understand patterns, to protect you." Protect me. They talked about my childhood anxiety, about a depressive episode I'd had in college, about how I struggled when left to my own devices. "We've handled things for you because you need structure," my mom said. "That's not a bad thing." I asked them directly what would happen if I moved out. There was a pause. My dad chose his words carefully. "If you continue down this path," he said, "we may need to explore legal options. Temporary guardianship, just until you're stable again." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. They weren't bluffing. They had documentation, years of it. Notes, appointments, statements, all framed to tell one story, that I wasn't capable of fully managing my life. I realized something terrifying in that moment. They didn't see this as controlling. They saw it as responsibility. I nodded, I agreed, I apologized, I told them I needed time to think. And that night, I packed quietly. I left before sunrise. I took only what I needed: clothes, documents, my laptop. I left my phone behind and bought a new one later that day. Laura picked me up 2 blocks away. Within hours, my family was calling, texting, emailing from new accounts when I didn't respond. They framed it as concern. "We just want to talk. You're making a mistake. You're not thinking clearly." Then the messages turned colder. Threats of wellness checks. Mentions of lawyers. Warnings about consequences. But here's the thing they didn't count on. I'd already spoken to one. Laura's aunt was an attorney. She helped me understand my rights, helped me document everything, helped me protect myself. My family never followed through. Because control only works when you're close enough to grab. I cut contact completely. It's been over a year now. I have my own place, my own routine, my own silence. Sometimes I still feel guilty. That took the longest to unlearn. The idea that independence is betrayal when you're raised inside control. Here, what I want people to understand. Not all cages look like cages. Some look like concern. Some look like support. Some look like family. If love requires surveillance, it isn't love. And if someone tells you they know what's best for you, ask yourself who benefits from that belief.